The original Blair Witch Project was released with one of the first viral marketing campaigns. It was everywhere. People were convinced it was real. The actors' families got condolences, search parties were organized. It was fantasy that crept into reality and drove found footage movies into the mainstream, both good and bad. I knew from the get-go that it was only a movie. The actors were fine, the witch wasn't real, and I was okay walking into a dark room. That being said, when I got to the end of the movie, I was shaken. My palms are sweating and my heart was in my throat. I had forgotten all about the reality, and for a brief moment, I was in that house, standing in that corner. And that is what I love about movies. That was lightning in a bottle. Then they rushed out a sequel the following year. A shameful cash grab. The less said about that movie, the better. Moving on. Then recently, they released a trailer for a movie called The Woods. It didn't show much, and honestly it reminded me of The Forest. I wonder why. And Sucker Punch, The Woods is actually a Blair Witch sequel. If the first Blair Witch had a huge marketing campaign, this movie had the exact opposite. No one saw this one coming. We actually got to see this at a preview screening. They took our cell phones away for security reasons. It was actually pretty cool. Anyway, don't worry, no spoilers. This is Blair Witch. Directed by Adam Wingard, who directed some segments of VHS, and he's currently working on Death Note. And you heard me right, this is truly a sequel to the first movie. Do you need to see the first Blair Witch to get this one? Not really, but it might help. The movie starts off strong with James, the brother of a certain Blair Witch hunter, coming across some blurry found footage posted on YouTube.
I think that might be my sister.
James believes that there is a chance that this is his sister, Heather. As you know, Heather went missing during the first movie 17 years ago. Now, at this point of the movie's history, there have been search parties that looked for the filmmakers and obviously turned up nothing. But this footage gives James hope. So he grabs some friends and he sets out to discover the truth. Will he find Heather? Will something horrible happen instead? Place your bets now. They're better equipped than Heather's group, with walkie-talkies, cell phones, GPS, a camera drone, and more of those amazing never-die camera batteries from the first movie. They spend the night in the woods. From there it builds fairly quickly. The original was more subtle, more psychological. There was a chance early on that the witch wasn't real and they were just losing their minds. But as that movie confirmed that there was really something demonic going on, going subtle would have felt like a step back. You get an interesting group of people, but you don't really learn a whole lot about these characters. They're like fodder in a slasher movie. Lots of callbacks to the original, stickmen, rock piles, strange sounds in the woods. And let's talk about sound. Oh my god, the sound design in this movie is absolutely chilling. And yes, this is a found footage movie. They have cameras that they wear on their heads, so we have more excuses to film what the actors are seeing. There are some pros and cons to this approach. On the one hand, with the camera and light being separate, the entire scene isn't illuminated. A lot of the movie takes place in dark woods, so some of the paranoia sets in. You just have this little cone of light moving around the screen. I kept looking for something in the frame, and it made me feel pretty vulnerable. On the other hand, since the camera is worn on a person's head, and since people's heads tend to bob and spin around, especially when under stress, you get some pretty shaky cam shots. And shaky cam and Blair Witch seem to go hand in hand, so I didn't mind this too much. It actually disorients you a bit at times, so you kind of feel like you're part of the action. But just a warning, if you really hate shaky cam, try to sit towards the back of the theater, it's not as bad. The acting's believable. Be prepared to hear people's names being shouted into the woods. A lot. I would have liked James's relationship with his sister to be fleshed out a bit more. He was 3 or 4 when Heather went missing, and it would have been nice to see more of a connection there. James's obsession with finding out what happened to Heather didn't seem to have the same Ahab-type quality Heather had in the original. And these woods are a very bad place. It's dark, threatening, you are not welcome here. It's a character in itself. And the big question, do you see the witch? You get a couple of fast glimpses. You never really get a good look, just enough to let you know there really is something there. We didn't see her in the original, which made it so effective. But I'm glad they chose not to do a full reveal here. And if they turn this into another franchise, I hope they keep it that way. But you do get more backstory on the witch and her mythology too, and that I'd like to see more of. There are some cheap jump scares, so be prepared. I mean, really cheap. It builds steadily and starts early in the film. We forgo what could be too much exposition or character building and get to the point sooner rather than later. And the final 15 minutes are terrifying. Things go crazy. You are wondering what's lurking behind every corner, and if you're at all claustrophobic like me, there's a scene that'll turn your knuckles white. It was very intense and relentless. Once it was over, I needed a moment to collect myself. I needed a hug. This was a worthy sequel. It captures the same spirit, pun intended, and actually continues the story from the original. It doesn't reinvent the wheel, nor does it try. It mirrors the original. It even has some of the same beats. I don't know if it was meant to be as an homage, fan service, or just a way of introducing these elements to a new generation. If you're a fan of the original, I highly recommend you see this. Just don't go alone. So that's Blair Witch. Yet another reason I will never go camping, ever. If you like this video, give a thumbs up, subscribe, you know you want to, and leave a comment below. Thank you for watching.